Hello and welcome to Unboxed, the podcast that dives deep into the world of custom packaging and innovative brand experiences. In each episode, we'll be exploring the latest trends, innovations, and best practices in the design and packing industry, and then taking a look at how they can help businesses like yours to create memorable and impactful brand experiences. I'm your host, Sam Johnston. Let's get started. So, welcome to Unboxed, the podcast that dives deep into the world of custom packaging and innovative brand experiences. In each episode, we'll be exploring the latest trends, innovations, and best practices in the design and packaging industry, and how they can help businesses like yours to create memorable and impactful brand experiences. I'm your host, Sam Johnston, and in this episode, we'll be talking to Nikki Daniels. She's the CEO and founder of the Capsule Brand Co. Thank you so much for giving us the time today, and really great to have you here, Nikki.
Sam, I am so happy to be here with you and excited to talk about making customers happy.
Love it. Awesome. Well, just for you as a listener, if you're coming to this and maybe you've listened to a couple of episodes previously and you want to jump to specific questions to hear Nikki's take on these, I know that we go through the same process. So just for the listener here, the first question that we'll run through will be what inspired our guests today to get into the branding, packaging, product growth industry, and how do they get their start in the field? The second one will be around how do they think custom packaging and product brand experiences in general can help people to create loyal customer bases? The third one will be any success stories, case studies, any hints and tips that they've seen from amazing things happening out there in the wild. Then the fourth will be any sort of challenges that she sees upcoming, any roadblocks maybe that businesses like yourselves may come across, and how you can get ahead of those without having to stumble across them yourself. And the last one will be a look at the future, where we'll get our crystal ball out, if you like, and see what's happening over the next 5 to 10 years. So without further ado, we'll come all the way back up, right up to the beginning there, to the first question, which is, Nikki, what inspired you to get into the branding, packaging, and product growth industry, and how did you get your start in the field?
Yeah, I went to fashion school, so I kind of always was obsessed with why customers buy, what they love, and started out at a branding and graphic design firm. So took kind of a left turn right in the beginning and got this
Nice.
amazing foundation on understanding how people think, how to talk to them without being verbally communicating, right? Without
Yeah.
words, without messaging. How do you talk to them with packaging? How do you talk to them with colors? How do you talk to them with movement? So took that and then started climbing the fashion ladder, merchandising, planning, buying, all the way up to COO. And as so many of us do in corporate, I got completely burned out, decided that, maybe making rich people richer wasn't what I wanted for the rest of my career. And so shifted over, jumped into entrepreneurship, and now I'm helping founders and aspiring founders and brands optimize their value and really, frankly, meet their goals, because what else are we here for?
Love that. I mean, what a journey. And what was that transition like, going from the kind of the standard corporate setting to suddenly have to jump in and set up your own business?
I mean, honestly, it was a detox. Like, I had to detox from speaking corporate, from thinking corporate, from kind of expecting that everything that I did as a new brand, as a new
Yeah.
entrepreneur would look glossy, right? We do
Yeah.
everything in corporate at this massive scale, and you have to come down and go, "You know what? Good is good enough for this. We'll just keep iterating."
That's great. Yeah, that kind of corporate language is such an interesting thing. Yeah, me and the group at Venture, which is a part of what Merchant Boxes is within the ecosystem, we live in this kind of entrepreneurial environment, and but every now and again, we obviously engage with larger customers and engage with the larger corporate environment, and it's so funny just to see those worlds clash. And it's only when you step out of it with a fresh perspective, you come back into that, and you're like, gosh, this is a whole different world that we've created for us to exist in. It's kind of bizarre.
It really is. We're speaking the
Yeah.
same language and not saying the same thing at all.
Yeah. Well, what's the kind of typical client that you work with currently then? So you're working with entrepreneurs, you're helping them to grow their business, get their value into the market and to scale. What do these people look like?
Yeah, they look like us. They are they are people who have started something amazing, who are trying to build a dream, trying to build a legacy, and they want to grow. They want to have customers who stay with them for the lifetime of their business, whether they're going to flip it and sell it, or they're going to keep it and pass it on to their children and their children's children. They're really people who are passionate about making something that's bigger than themselves, but also not doing big just for the sake of it, right?
Yeah.
Like living on their own terms.
And are they in certain industries or verticals, or is it pretty agnostic and wide?
Completely agnostic. I think
Yeah.
process and systems that you use to establish your value and to get into the head of your customer, they're universal, right? People are people at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
That's absolutely true. Well, let's get straight into this next question. I know that just to give you some insight, our listeners here, there's a mix. We have people that are in the corporate setting currently, having to use that language you just talked about, and they're looking at new ways to kind of hear what entrepreneurs are doing on the ground, because sometimes it's great to get fresh perspectives from people that are having to start from scratch. So they're at a bit of a different scale. Maybe they're looking at new regions, new customer types, or just brand new product releases. Then on the flip side, we have these entrepreneurial people that are maybe aspirational. They're still waiting for the inspiration to kickstart the business, or they've just started and they're looking for hints and tips to be able to take their products to market, be able to build great brands, and to be able to build something that's a legacy for themselves. So, with that in mind, a lot of them are product orientated, and they're building brands around those products, getting those into potentially retail, e-commerce, or direct to consumer in some other fashion. And this next question is geared towards them. So that is, how does custom packaging and product brand experiences contribute to creating a loyal customer base? And what are some of the most effective strategies that you've seen for achieving this?
I love this because I think so many brands are focused on the emotional connection and they're focused on getting the sale that
Yeah,
they forget that loyalty and especially sustained loyalty takes emotional and social psychology. So you can't just have one or the other. You can't just have the trust and the emotion. You need consistency, right? Consistency across touch points and consistency across time. Prove that you are who you say you are as a brand. And then you need that tribe. You need that sense of belonging that people need in order to trust and reciprocated value because none of us enjoy a one sided relationship. So
so
I
true.
think that's where custom packaging and brand experiences in general really come in as this weapon for entrepreneurs and brands to use far beyond just product protection and consumer education. Have you seen have you seen that Disney movie? It's super old, Enchanted with Amy
Yeah,
Adams.
back in the
Okay, so
day.
what I'm
That's a good
talking
one.
about. It's so
Yeah.
it's packaging. So those of you listening, if you don't know, Amy Adams plays this like cartoon animated princess, and I think she gets banished or something. She ends up in New York and to like this real world, meets Patrick Dempsey, blah blah blah. But she just like transforms immediately. So she goes from this flat two dimension into the three-dimension world, and I think that's what we're forgetting so many times as businesses, that your packaging does that for you. So
That's
it's
great.
this gateway, and it's the last step. I mean, you have to go through packaging before you can access product.
Yeah.
So it's your last impression.
Love that. Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. Actually, I hadn't thought of that one, but that makes a lot of sense. And I think that you said the word tribe there, and in particular, if you're just launching a product or you're just launching a business, there's an early adopter market out there. People that are feeling the pain or are most aligned with this, the people that are most likely to make the initial purchase, and reflecting them in your branding is so key. And a lot of people that maybe people like Merchant Boxes work with, they haven't quite got that right yet. Like they're still testing, they're still innovating and trying to find like what is it exactly that this user wants to see that represents them in the experience they're having with our brand and product. And maybe there's some research and development, bit of user testing that happens. But a lot of it also is just to do with like if you are a founder and you're trying to serve that type of client, most likely you are that kind of buyer. You belong to that tribe, and they have a lot of instincts. They have a lot of intuitive understanding of those users. Are you helping entrepreneurs to kind of learn that and understand who their user is more deeply?
Absolutely. It was actually, it's funny you say that because a couple weeks ago it was my newsletter focus. There's
Nice.
this breakdown on average that it's about 10%, maybe 12% of your users fall into that early tribe. And users, I mean customers and
Yeah.
anybody that's interacting with your brand. The majority actually don't fall into that group. So it can be an opposite trap too. We work so hard in the beginning days to build that early adopter tribe, and then they're not who's going to bring in the 80% of revenue over the longevity of the brand. But it's absolutely something that I help my clients dig into and understand and figure out Who are you talking to?
Mhm.
What is it they actually desire from you? And how do you surprise and delight them?
Yeah.
It's not just about sales anymore. Transactions are like last decade. Now we're doing
Yeah.
now we're doing real relationships, which is exciting.
So good. Well, taking all of that into context, could you share any success stories or case studies maybe of businesses that have transformed their brand for custom packaging or just done amazing design exercises?
Yeah, my favorite my favorite is actually I didn't work on it, but I was a consumer and it's so cliche and kind of girly, but mid 2000s, like circa 2010, Victoria's Secret shopping bags. It
Hmm.
was everywhere. I was working at Nordstrom in the buying team, and grown women were bringing in their lunches in striped lingerie bags. Like,
Wow.
it's baffling to think of it now, but there's just no greater moment, right? Than when your
Yeah.
bag becomes part of a lifestyle. But
Yeah, and I think that happens a couple of times now, right? With like there's
yeah.
Lululemon is another one I see quite out there, quite a while. They have really nice little popper bags that are great for lunches, perfect sizes.
Yeah, and I mean, people are selling Louis Vuitton boxes that their stuff comes in for free, the free box that comes with it. They're selling that for like $100 on eBay. So it's like there's something about packaging that can be so much more than just function, but
Yeah.
on a just a really practical level, when I was working with Carter's when they launched in Amazon, the children's clothing brand, they bombed. Amazon was terrible. And they were looking around going, there's all these amazing brands, our direct competition, everyone's killing it. What's happening on Amazon? So we started digging into the customer and realized that value for the Carter shopper when they're on Amazon was just bundles. They
Yeah.
just wanted packs. They didn't want to buy one shirt at a time. So changed the packaging there, went from singles to multi packs, didn't change the price. The price per unit was exactly the same, and sales tripled. So
Wow.
you
That's
can,
an epic story. Yeah. Just simply packaging your pricing together like that. What a
yeah,
unique way to drive some additional growth. That's amazing. You wouldn't
yeah,
intuitively think that by upping the basket value that you would increase
yeah.
your sales.
Yeah, it becomes comical almost how
Mm.
easy sales get when you really get into the head of your customer and you tap into them on that psychological, on that emotional, on that value perception level.
So when you were doing that, how did you identify that the bundles were the best option? Was it just that you saw that happening on the competition, mirrored it, and it tested well, or did you speak to the clients to find that out? What was the way?
Nope, we looked a little at the competition, but we looked
Yeah,
at the cross industry. So we looked at what was happening in other spaces, and then we
nice.
looked at what's happening in the DTC stores when they're buying the most, and they were buying the most in packs. So we went, "Wait a minute, packs, value, let's try it." Started with one, it blew out immediately, which on Amazon is actually a bad thing. So we were like, "Hurry, hurry, make everything packs," and just
Yeah.
made that switch over.
That's great. I mean, that's a call to action right here for any of the entrepreneurs or people in the corporate scene here that are listening, to ensure to kind of sense check every now and again of what's happening in the market, what's happening with competition, what are the consumers buying and demanding, maybe what's being advertised. Usually following the dollar signs will give you a good indication of what consumers are demanding. So that's a great piece of gold there. Thank you so much.
No
Um,
problem.
Leads on to, I think, probably our next question here. So those are some great insights on what's done really well for you and other brands that are out there. Maybe let's take a look at some of the challenges or like roadblocks that businesses and entrepreneurs are likely to face when it comes to packaging, branding, and these experiences, and how could they overcome them ahead of schedule?
I think there are more challenges than opportunities, unfortunately. I wish that wasn't true, but I think I think you have your work cut out for you, whether you're leading a big brand or you're just starting one or you're somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But in my personal experience, it's the balance that's the absolute hardest to nail. And it's especially in packaging specifically, it's creative versus practicality, right?
Hmm.
You've got margins and costs and function on one side, and then you've got brand identity and you've got messaging and you've got the aesthetic and the feeling you want your customers to have, and those two are often very opposing forces. So being able
Yeah.
to navigate that, um, when I was in merchandising, we was kind of most of the job, honestly, touching that perfect intersection between what the designers wanted, what the product development team wanted, and then what the customer actually wanted. And that three-way conversation, I see a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the early days, they're trying to have it with themselves. You can only add in so much personality before you start to go a little nuts. So I think it's the tip here, so to speak, is maintain the balance, iterate, and get some balance, get some other voices, whether it's your team, whether it's people you trust, whether it's literally going out into the market and kind of getting those views from competition, like you said, or even cross-functional competition, um, to test, to analyze, to really review it and dig into, and then be really, really scientific.
Yeah.
Control what you can control, test all the other factors, and just keep going over and over and over until you start to tap into something that works.
That was amazing. I hope that all the listeners hit rewind here and go back 5 or 10 minutes and re-listen to that, because so many founders, in particular the founder, are so passionate about their product and have worked so intently on getting it right that then they, sometimes you can get a little bit clouded, and you sort of you drop off the attention span when it actually comes to the go-to-market angle, and you just assume that everyone else knows all of these details that you've been working on for so long, that everyone's just going to get it because obviously it's amazing and this is why you put all your life savings into it. And then suddenly the market doesn't react because they just don't know, they haven't got the message, or it wasn't quite put in the right place at the right time, and things fall over at that point, and it can feel like the world is coming to an end. And often, agencies are brought in at those points where I thought it was going to go really well, and then suddenly, oh no, it didn't. I need help to do a turnaround. I need some assistance. So if you're listening to this, rewind. What Nikki just gave is absolute gold. And also, I would just suggest bring these people in earlier on in the game, even if you are very confident in the way you're going about things. There's Nikki, there's other people out here that will, I'm sure, give a little bit of time just to help critique it, and to say, maybe give you some additional ideas that you hadn't thought about, which can just de-risk the go-to-market activity, those initial runs that you're spending money on. So yeah, I think that's amazing. Thank you so much.
No problem. I hope it
Uh,
helps.
yeah, it's good. And we've kind of gone through here like some of the great things that are happening in the market, some insights into that, some of the challenges that are going to come up, and then how we're going to be able to deal with those ahead of schedule, hopefully, and then spot them as they're starting to happen. The last one here is for us to do a bit of forecasting. I'm not a financial forecaster. I can't tell you what's going to happen. This isn't anything to do with sort of the elections and all the stuff that's going on currently, but just within packaging, within brand experiences out there in the market, with your in-depth understanding of what's going on. What do you think is going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years? What should businesses and entrepreneurs be doing today to stay ahead of that curve?
I love this question so much. I am a forecaster at heart. I think most of us that are planners think that way. We're like, well, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
The micro trends we're currently seeing, things like sustainability, personalization, gamification is becoming a big one. They are becoming more mainstream. So I think when you take that 5 to 10 view, the wow factor and the impact of all those starts to get a little diminished because
Mhm.
it's saturated, right? It's becoming standard, and you're going to stand out more if you don't have those things than if you do, like in a negative way, potentially as well. We can't ignore smart tech. I mean, it's
Yeah.
bringing everything together, our digital lives, our physical lives, and then the data that you can get with smart tech is mind boggling. And those physical tactile moments that are immersive and feel good and make you, just love and feel part of a brand. There's all the cross industry collaborations that are happening that I think will continue because people aren't just one thing. Like
Mhm.
acknowledging that our customers have lives outside of the time they bought our one thing from us on a Sunday. But I think I see the biggest 5 to 10 year shift being a little dramatic, more focus on balance, more focus on margin and differentiation than just like leaning one way or the other. And I don't think we've even touched the sides yet on how focused we are going to be as brands on loyalty and the depth of the relationship with our customers instead
Yeah.
of just acquisition, right? It's not just viral moment to moment. It's doing what's right for you and your business and your customer, whether you're running a little Etsy shop netting 5K a month or you're running a $13 billion brand. I think weathering all the storms and the saturation and the logistical challenges that are coming in this next decade, I think is going to have this requirement and demand from us a laser focus on who our customer is when they're shopping with us and what they want from us, and kind of being willing to throw out the rule book a little, when everyone's going left, hook a right. I think that's how people are going to get ahead in the next decade.
That's amazing. So much gold there as well for people. And do you think you mentioned kind of micro or mini trends that are happening, and then some of the more macro activities that are going on. Is it worth kind of identifying those two separate sections, and do you kind of react to those two different things differently?
I think you do when you look at the curve of a trend, whether you're talking about fashion or you're talking about these types of trends in the marketplace, you do have to look at where you are on the wave, right? If it's just
Yeah.
coming up into mass market, you're still riding the impact, but when it's on passes that curve, you're on the downtrend and you might as well not waste your time. But I think the answer to that really goes back to what's your industry? What's your product's life cycle? Who's your customer? And not just some list of demographics that honestly, I don't shop for my demographics.
Yeah.
I mean, do you? Do you
No.
shop because you have brown hair? I don't. Maybe someone does, but I think coming back to that, like who your customer really is and what they really desire helps you determine, do you jump on board with this micro trend? Do you need to get on board with that macro trend? I mean, Amazon never got into fancy packaging.
Hmm.
They got into fast shipping because
Yeah.
that matters more to their customer. And I'm an avid Amazon shopper. Like I want it here when it's more than a couple days, you're like, what is going on? Amazon's slipping over there. Like, but if it showed up in anything other than the brown paper, would we care? I
But
don't think
yeah,
we would.
that's awesome. I think that for all of the entrepreneurs, listeners, wherever you are in your career, there's something in this episode that's going to be of use. So thank you so much, Nikki, for jumping in here and giving everybody a bit of your time. It's really, really valuable. And I know that people are going to get a lot out of your experience that you've been able to provide here. What's the best way for people to follow you, to engage with you? Like if someone's like, hey, I need Nikki's help here. That was amazing. How do I contact? What's the best way for them to reach out?
Find me on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
My email's easy. Do you want me to give it to you now, like verbally, or do you want to put it in the
We'll,
link?
we'll,
Or
we'll put it into the show notes. We'll put the link to LinkedIn in there, as
perfect.
we'll put the email in there. So if people are listening, just jump down to the show notes and description, and you'll be able to click that in there as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay. Come find
Well,
me.
that's amazing. Thank you so much for being a guest, Nikki. And if you've enjoyed this episode as a listener, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Leave us a review wherever you're listening to this. It means a lot to us and all of the algorithm robot overlords that are controlling things. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, or you'd like to be a guest for a future episode, you can reach us on email at hello@merchantboxes.com. Until next time, keep thinking outside the box and creating unforgettable brand experiences. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode. It was sponsored by Merchant Boxes. Merchant Boxes provide custom packaging to large businesses and small creators that customers love. If you're looking for award-winning custom package designs that make your business and products stand out from the competition, click the link in the show notes to find out more.